This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Super Crow stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Devin Thorpe, your host here at the Super Crowd, and we are so excited to share this great episode of Superpowers for Good with you. I have an extraordinary guest today who's raised a lot of money via regulation crowdfunding for doing some of my favorite stuff, installing solar panels and other things, microgrids in rural America. This is going to be a cool episode, so stick around. You don't want to miss it. Lester, welcome to the show. We're excited to introduce you to America here.
Devin, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you very, very much. You know, at Ovanova, where you are co-founder, you have been doing really some amazing, cool things. And I've invested in 2 or 3 of your deals at least now. And, you've kind of got this greased. And so there's just so much I want to learn from you. But let's step back quickly. Give us a quick overview of Ovanova.
Now, Ovanova is just a team of people who are crazy enough to commit to a mission to add as much value as possible to as many lives as possible. And that sounds crazy and grandiose and non-actionable. Like if I were investing in a company and they told me that was their mission, I'd be like, maybe narrow that down a little bit. But how we came to the convergence of adding as much value as possible to as many lives as possible and installing microgrids in rural America, solar plus storage plus smart controls is what a microgrid is. It's very simple to us. We look at the 1800s and the energy starved environment. We didn't have coal, we didn't have gas, we didn't have oil. We had a little bit of coal. And we were so mean to each other because there wasn't enough to go around that we could rationalize things like slavery as being okay, societally, kind of wild. And you look at the environment that we're in now after unleashing all of the work we've been able to do for the last century with fossil fuels, and we still have racism, we still have all kinds of issues. But compared to the issues of the 1800s, what we've been able to solve by unleashing energy and the technology to use it to do useful work for humanity, there's no question that we've gotten better. And our thesis is real simple. What would happen if we went from an energy starved world to an energy scarce world? What if we went to an energy abundant world? How much better could we treat each other? And so we just see energy as the single biggest lever that we personally could help pull to add as much value as possible to as many lives as possible, simply because of this weird philosophy we have that there's a couple of different paths in life, or there's a lot of paths in life people can take. But there's the train, do, get path, which I'm going to train to do law. I'm going to train to be a lawyer. I'm going to do law, and I'm going to get what lawyers get. I'm going to train to be a mechanic. I'm going to do mechanicking. I'm going to get. So it's train, do, get. And then the other path is create, share, or connect, create, and share. So what makes this so valuable, Devin, and outfits like Climatize, where we met, where you invested in some of our projects with Will Wiseman and Alba, who are amazing human beings that put it all together, is that we're able to connect. And when we connect, we can create. And when we create, we can share. And it takes energy to connect. It takes energy to create. It takes energy to share. So the way we see it, we're just kind of living in an oil matrix where everything we do somehow connects back to the energy that we use. And we figured, hey, sunlight's free. And on a long enough time scale, that matters.
Yeah, one of the amazing things that you're talking about here is this pattern of energy use. And I think a lot of folks in what I think of as sort of my community, people who are really environmentally concerned, is they often talk as if we need to replace fossil fuels with solar and wind and other renewables, as if replacing the energy sources we have will solve the problem. And I look to the future and I see some of what you see. And I envision that the need for energy on the planet over the next 30 years will be at least 10x what it is today. And so demand for solar is just barely beginning to develop. It is the easiest, most reliable source of energy on the planet, bar none. I think you've identified 6 factors that cause this exponential growth in demand for energy. Tell us about those 6 factors.
I call it a 6-headed monster attacking our grid. You know, we in America are very used to being able to just plug in anything we want to, and it will work. It's not hard to get the energy that we need. Maybe people from the 1970s can kind of remember when energy was scarce and we started having these conversations. I wasn't born until late in that decade, so I don't recall it. All I remember is if you pay $1, you can get a kilowatt hour. And this is why that's about to change. These are these 6 factors. Number 1, American manufacturing is returning. Right up the road, 15 minutes up the road, is a Blue Oval plant, which Ford is using to produce their F-150 Lightnings, at least eventually. It's been delayed a few times, and most folks out here, they don't think that it's ever going to actually come online because we're so used to, in rural America, something good's supposed to happen, but then the opportunity goes away. So that's the general vibe. But anyway, the reason the grid can't handle these things is because, before I tell you about these 6 things, let me tell you the mistake that we made is that we didn't develop nuclear for the last 40 years. We should have been developing nuclear from 1980 to 2010, and we wouldn't be in this terrible problem that we wouldn't have this terrible 6-headed monster problem. We would be able to do something about it. But right now, we have American manufacturing returning. We have EVs being plugged in, and I wish I had my screen to pull up to show you what that looks like so you could see it visually, but it is a giant spike of energy whenever you plug an EV in that our grid isn't really ready for. It can kind of do, but it can't. EVs. The third thing, Bitcoin mining, especially now. You know, Bitcoin mining is the electrification of money. The next thing that causes this giant demand is we're electrifying everything. You know, everything, heating, cooling, you name it, everything is being electrified. The 5th thing that you're looking at is robots. They're not here yet, but I've been in meetings. They're here. You've seen Optimus. You know what's going on at Boston Dynamics. Robots are going to use a lot of power. Small thing, but when there's billions of them, adds up. And the single biggest thing that has gotten me into overdrive and focused right now on the microgrid solution is AI. People don't realize an AI data center takes like 70 times the energy of a normal data center. The way I've described this before is that if you imagine a home with an EV plugged in is 1 basketball's worth of energy, then the data center in Memphis, 50 miles up the road from me, that Elon just put in is 4 school buses full of basketballs worth of energy. It's 10,000 times the usage of a normal home. And if you've been paying attention and you see these tech companies restarting 3 Mile Island, you see them buying, they're trying to come, and they're not restarting 3 Mile Island to power a mid-sized city with clean energy. They're doing it to train 1 AI data cluster. And if the AI arms race is what it looks like, the amount of energy that we're going to need in the very short term, especially if it becomes a national issue where we start trying to build the biggest AI center to compete with a nation state. I sound like a madman, but I work and I see this, and I'm in communication with utility companies all the time, and they're scared. They don't know what they're going to do. And so the options are super increase in generation. Very challenging to do. Involves a lot of construction. Very much smarter energy management. That's possible. It's part of what we're working on. And then the only other thing that you could really do is rolling blackouts, because if there's not enough power on the grid, then some part of the grid has to go down. It's kind of like an amputation. talking about the 1800s, the only way we have to treat the disease of not enough energy is to cut off a part of the grid so that the rest of the body can survive. Because if the grid collapses, this sounds conspiratorial, but it's true. The studies I've read said that 2/3 to 90% of Americans would be dead within 1 year of a grid collapse. Doesn't sound like it at first, but when you think about, diabetics need insulin, that goes away if there's no power and there's no other town to go to. And I don't want to get deep into this because it's too dark, literally dark. And it's not the reason that we do it. We're doing it to avoid that by trying to make our grid strong enough. And the reason it matters to people out here in the sticks, like where I'm from, is because we know that if Elon's supercomputer and the blue oval need energy, that it doesn't make any difference if my parents' medical devices need to run. They get the blackout. So that's why we have a microgrid.
Yeah, this is, it's fascinating to be thinking about this exponential demand for energy and how quickly that is upon us, and the opportunity that creates for people in the solar industry like you. Let's shift gears a little bit. We just had an election recently, and a president who is famously skeptical of climate change is taking the helm. And you get a lot of your revenue from building solar in rural America and taking advantage of USDA REAP grants.
Yep.
And it's probably too far into the weeds to try and understand everything about those, but let's talk about the reality.
Yeah.
Do you see those grants continuing under the new administration? And how do you plan to evolve your business if not?
Yeah, great questions. I just think, first of all, energy is more fundamental than even an election. If there were no election ever again, people would still want to turn the lights on and use their computers. And so it's important to recognize that we're having a more fundamental conversation than politics. And it would also be naive and ridiculous to think that elections don't matter. And what you've referenced is one particular program. I believe the Inflation Reduction Act was the single best piece of legislation for advancing renewable energy in rural America that's ever been created. And of course, nobody in rural America, except for a few people that we talked to, even knew about it. It was a very challenging program to write a 300-page grant, create a design, and come up with boutique financing like Climatize that Will and Alba helped us come up with to finance the projects. So with all of that said, here's where I see this going. Number one, who knows with politics? They could repeal every tax credit. They could get rid of the REAP grant. They could get rid of all that stuff, and it could go away, and it wouldn't change the fact that sunlight is free and sunlight can be used as a fuel to produce valuable power. And on a long enough timeline, and you can predict that humans are going to want to use power for a long time, any cost of fuel compared to a free cost of fuel becomes a non-starter in how we're rolling things out. Because of the issues that I just mentioned, the population just isn't aware of how extreme our energy needs are right now. So anything that takes money away from the deployment of any type of energy asset is unlikely. From what I've heard, American energy dominance is going to be the theme of the administration, which is like all forms of energy. I would imagine that the ITC will be used as a political football that gets bandied around. But the truth is, at the end of the day, there's already a big industry, a lot of from the Infrastructure Act, that equipment needs to be sold. The truth is that most of these incentives are help rural America more, red states more. The fact of the matter is that I have no idea how it's going to work. We got lucky to find the REAP grant. I read the Inflation Reduction Act when it came out. I understood the tax credits. And then a cousin of mine said, "Hey, is there any grants?" And I said, "I don't think so, but we can look it up," and found the REAP grant. So energy's too important to screw around with too much. But if they do, sunlight's free, and we'll continue.
Yeah, it is exciting, and the technology and the price points are there where this is a business in any case, right? So exciting future. Obviously solar's not going away in a world that demands so much energy. So the future is bright still, right?
Yeah, I would say, really simply put, that the thing about, if people are concerned about climate was a great message for solar without storage. If you want to advance climate this decade, this administration, it's about energy security. It's about grid reliability and security. It's about distributed energy resources. And you still get the carbon benefit. You just get more of it because you also eliminate the dirtiest source, which is the diesel generators. Then you could use it at night. So that's why we don't offer solar without storage. We only do microgrids. We don't put solar up unless there's a storage component, because it creates a feedback in the market. That didn't work when the power was off, or, oh, that's just for carbon. But now it's like, no, actually, this is to keep the grid up so that we're not eaten by the AI and not eaten by the manufacturing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, we got to take a quick break. Everyone, I'm here today with Lester Crafton of Ovanova, and we're talking about the amazing business he's building, creating microgrids in rural America. Very exciting stuff, very cool stuff. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll kind of shift gears, and we'll talk about Lester's superpower. So stick around.
You can get in on the ground floor to help fix the climate crisis for as little as $100. Pause now to scan the QR code to get started, or visit s4g.biz/raisegreen. You can be a green at Raise Green.
Want to learn from the world's great changemakers? Find your superpower. Subscribe to the Superpowers for Good newsletter at superpowersforgood.com. Make your strengths into superpowers that will change the world. Join the super crowd today. Superpowers4good.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We're just having the most fun today. We're talking to Lester Crafton of Ovanova. We're talking about solar and all the implications, including what happens with solar under the new administration. But we're shifting gears now. We're going to talk to Lester about his superpower. So stick around. You don't want to miss this. Lester, you have really built something that matters at Ovanova, and you've done some really big projects. You've raised a lot of money from the crowd, doing great things. What is your superpower?
I believe that the human spirit's greater than human nature. I think that we allow each other to play small and blame it on human nature. Oh, that's just human nature. It's human nature to do as little as possible to try to get as much as possible. But the human spirit says, how can I contribute as much as possible? And if I have a superpower at all, it's that I have been blessed with personal experiences of watching thousands of people do impossible things. Like, it's hard for me you said I have built something at Ovanova, and that's just not true. It's a team of, and all the humans that we've met. We started out, Devin, not as a solar company. We started out as a way to raise funds for nonprofits whenever their supporters would come to us to learn about solar energy, at no cost to the supporter, no requirement to buy anything. We'll give you money to have conversations with people. So if I have any superpower at all, it's just that I'm from the country, and there's a bunch of broken down old tractors out here that you couldn't go to town to get some part. And if you couldn't fix it, you couldn't get back to the field. If you couldn't get to the field, you couldn't grow a crop. Couldn't grow a crop, you couldn't feed your family, much less the world. And so when things are broken, they just have to be fixed. And I'm really stubborn when it comes to seeing something that could be really good for people, but it's just a little bit off. So my superpower is being able to stick to things and then attract super amazing people like my partner, John Kerry. is a world-changing human. You guys will meet him eventually. He's like Batman. Our COO went to the Naval Academy and Harvard Business School and just keeps things running on time. Our guy that's the head of construction has a bioengineering honors degree, who is doing carbon capture stuff in the ocean and realized, wow, we're burning gas to capture carbon. So I guess it all comes back to energy. His brother does countdowns for SpaceX, and we couldn't recruit his brother because we were a real small company. But we're like, hey, do you have any people with brains like yours, maybe family members? And he started as an intern, and now he's the microgrid master, Chris Snodgrass. I think about our nonprofit, like we're doing relief from Hurricane Helene right now. And I'll share one quick story with you. Our nonprofit director, Zena Leon, has gone to Peru and inspired people to clean up entire rivers. She came back to her hometown in the mountains of North Carolina. And you asked about what we're doing moving forward. We're working with churches and communities to establish microgrids for future disaster preparedness and to create virtual power plants within those communities. And that's the stuff I love talking about. It's virtual power plants.
Man, that's great. That's great. I think I'm hearing your superpower is your ability to kind of overcome challenges, in part fueled by your faith in the goodness of humanity, the good side of human nature. Am I hearing you right?
That's right. I mean, we all know what it's like to be lazy sometimes. We all know what it's like to not do our best or to make a mistake. And like I was talking about earlier with create, share, receive, like connect, create, share. Well, if you connect with somebody, you create something. I promise what we created at Ovanova 10 years ago, we thought it was great. But when we shared it or create, you connect, create, share, receive. That's the thing. I said it wrong earlier. And what we received from our creation that's not very good, boys. You need to go do better. You need to go do better. So we've treated our whole journey as an experiment to figure out how can we do what these people are telling us that they want done. So yeah, it's just persistence. Instead of looking at how do I get something for me, it's like, how can I create as much as I possibly can for you? And then if you share with me, it's not good, then we'll go back and recreate, we'll connect, and we'll recreate and share.
Our time is starting to run out here. Before we run out of time, can you give us one or two tips for mastering your superpower?
It's hard to believe in humans and the goodness of humans with all the bad stuff that people have done to us. At the end of the day, realize you're a human and you're still capable. My superpower of believing in humans, seeing what's best of that, and then because of that, having tremendous people who are willing to contribute their efforts to a cause, is just realizing that there's no limit to what you can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit. We're not doing this to try to be famous or wealthy. We're just trying to be helpful. We're trying to be useful. And we just got really good at something because we did it a whole lot because it mattered to us. And so just keep going no matter what, because there is somebody good that will help you if what you've created and share with them inspires them, leaves them in a way where they're touch moved and inspired to want to support whatever you're doing. And it all comes down to humans. What good is energy if there's no humans to use it? What good is energy if it kills all the humans making it? Like, if you take all of the things out of the world and you leave the humans can rebuild all the things. If you take all the humans out of the world and leave all the things can't rebuild the humans. And so we're mean to ourselves sometimes because of the bad that we do, but we got to give ourselves a little bit credit too. You're in California, I'm in Tennessee. We're having a conversation instantly because we have energy and technology and the knowledge to put those things together in a way where we can connect. And again, if we can connect, we can create, we can share. Sometimes what we receive when we share is, wow, we have a whole lot of approved grants for projects. Sometimes it's like, you guys really suck and we don't like what you're doing and you're doing it poorly. And so then you get a chance to recreate it. So I believe we're all capable of trying and learning.
Excellent. Ovanova.co to learn more. Is that right?
Sure. Or LinkedIn, Facebook, our website. We don't put much time into it, but if you want to get in touch, we'll be doing some more crowdfunding in the future. And then we have another big fund that we're raising for the construction projects that we have and for our energy company and the VPP software we're developing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Lester, thank you so much for being with us today. I want to wish you every success in the great work that you're doing.
Devin, thank you for supporting us. And thank you for having me on. If there's anything I can do to be useful for you or your community, happy to do it.
All righty. Let's do some